presence. I don't think there's anything more beautiful that we can give somebody than our true presence. Not trying to fix them, not trying to change them, not 3 steps ahead, not in our mind, just right, divine mind, heart, hips, soul, presence. I'm thinking about this for 2 reasons. One, I do different ways I start my group calls, and I had an inner circle call last night, and I was inspired to not close eyes. Well, a little bit first, close eyes in meditation, clear energy, etc., but then open eyes and literally behold everyone on the call. And take a moment to really lock in and look at them and behold how magnificent they are. And the person being seen. We all want to be seen. See me, do you see me? But when we actually get seen, it's like, wow. There's a wonderful exercise that we do, and it brings presence like this. I say this to you because I really think my Magic Mind mornings, something about the way it's concocted, the way the energy flows, it allows me to be more present with me at the beginning of the day. So I don't start my day running or thinking. I get you guys know how I like to do it: ginger, cinnamon, hot water, Magic Mind. And I also think you need a Magic Mind mug. This is my mug from the John Campbell Folk School in North Carolina. And it's like this whole ritual for me. I also wanted to remind you, the beautiful company has allowed me to give you 50% off if you want to get a subscription, and 20% off if you just want to one-time give it a go. And so I really recommend you give it a go for at least 3 months. Get the subscription. You'll save. It'll be worth it. And you'll really get a sense of the energy, the focus, the presence that you can have, that it can support you in having with yourself. Create a ritual in the morning. Get yourself a special mug. And then notice how that allows you to have the kind of energy that will inspire bravery, embodied courage, to be present with the people that really matter. It's a tiny shift that can create a massive difference in your life. To be present with people who you're normally spinning around with, or even to be present with them if they're spinning and they begin to entrain into your vortex. We were talking about that on the group coaching call prior to the inner circle. This one woman was saying, when people are spinning around her, she just tries to spin to catch up with them. And I said, yeah, and what if we took a different point of view and just let them spin and allowed it to actually help us go deeper into presence, deeper into our body. And then, how many people actually listen to you, are actually present in your day? I'm imagining very few. So I said, what if you, this client, could be that person for the spinning person? Just go, wow, thank you, tell me more. Or wow, what else? Because I find when people get emptied out of all the spinning thoughts, underneath it all is truth. Underneath it all is quite often feelings that have not been felt, a yearning for connection, a pressing away of whatever feelings they've got going on. And if we can be that person to be present and really just get them, that can actually create a miracle. That can create a complete shift in someone's life trajectory. They go home that night going, wow, somebody actually saw me and cares about me. And great segue into the podcast you're about to watch. The presence that Luci and I instantly fall into as soon as I met her the very first time. I love that we've gotten to know each other over the years now, IG Lives, and now this podcast, and all the transformation that's occurred in both of us and how we can still track each other, listen, not just with our minds, but with our bodies and our hearts, and have this beautiful weaving conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy the delight of sisterhood in our conversation, and obviously so much that she's going to share with you about her own relationship with herself, her husband's relationship with himself, and how that deepens the relationship they have together and with their family, their 4 children, and their business. Enjoy.
Welcome to Intimate Conversations, Soul Medicine. Intimacy is an inside job. Hello, delicious people. Welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations. Here we are, season 11, Soul Medicine. And this time we're talking about intimacy, sacred sex, and erotic embodiment. And who better than the gorgeous goddess, Luci Lampe? And you've seen her on my IG. I've been on her IG, and I'm like, we just have to go deeper. So here we go. This is a gorgeous MILF, may I say, mother of four, and a trauma-informed sex and relationship coach, and an award-winning singer and songwriter. I always threaten you. I'm going to come to LA and we're going to do a little dance.
All right. Yes, please.
And you're also a commercial actress and a print model and a 3-time author. And her writing's been featured on the Huffington Post, Forbes, Entrepreneur.com, CBS, Fox, etc. And here, let's go deeper into her story. After overcoming an autoimmune disorder and embarking on a deep healing journey and spiritual awakening during her husband's 2-year disability and depression, Luci has returned with a bold message of love and courage and freedom. So back over musically, she boasts a hooking pop sound with soulful, heartfelt vocals. And professionally, she draws upon her studies and certifications in neuro-linguistic programming, somatic experiencing, cognitive behavioral therapy, hypnotherapy, Reiki, counseling, EFT tapping, and her degree in exercise science to create unique, powerful programs and curricula for her clients and members, which you can find at lucilampe.com, and also her thewildawakening.teachable.com. And all of those links are going to be in the show notes. So first and foremost, hi. Thank you for taking time in your beautiful, busy life to be here today, right here, right now, because you're so somatically connected. How are you?
I'm doing well. I feel a fresh, just breath of energy and inspiration just in the last 2 days after being in maybe a 2-week, just very expansive feeling. And all of this energy collectively right now has been a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I even started my cycle 5 days early to sync up with the eclipse.
Oh, very good job.
Really very bizarre.
Wow.
Not by my doing, but that's just
Right.
how it's just been really in sync with what's happening.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm feeling good and revived today, and I'm really happy that this is happening today and not last Wednesday.
Yeah, right. Life has us if we just surrender, which to me is so
Exactly.
challenging
Yeah.
to let go. Yeah. So for those that don't know you, that didn't catch our IG live, we spoke of it a bit in your bio, but tell us more how you've really chosen to share about like our topic today around sacred sexuality and erotic embodiment as your life's work and with your partner, and sharing this with the world. How did this come about?
Oh, well, a lot of surrender. That I think that's going to be a buzzword for today. I have a feeling, Alana. It's like the buzzword of my whole life. It was like I was initiated into this work by life. I didn't have an intention, 15 years ago, and I'm going to do this as my career, my chosen career path. I've always had a big pull towards using my voice, whether musically or speaking or writing or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd never anticipated that it would be in the really juicy, intimate, erotic, but also the painful parts, and just really unearthing the power in that.
Yeah.
Only because we've had to go through our own things. And yeah, like it mentioned in my bio, there was a period of time where Ryan went through a very mysterious experience of disability in his nervous system. And he went to the VA, tried to get it figured out, had some unnecessary surgery he apparently didn't even need, only made it worse. Just this whole spiral of that, and how his ego and his identity was so stripped away, all the things that he used to do with his body, sports, surfing, all of that, just the way that he even looked, in the midst of family, right? I was pregnant with our 4th child at the time. And then I went through my autoimmune experience. My body said, no more. we need to look at some deeper things, and we just cannot continue doing things the way that we're doing them. And that
Yeah.
just sent us into a big catalyst in the journey.
Wow.
And there have been others. There have been others. Another actually more recent one earlier this year, Ryan did
Yeah.
a 41-day water fast. And that was, it's not something I recommend to anyone listening, okay? But he got this very direct message from source, from spirit, an invitation to do it. And he said yes. And in the midst of that, I also took a pilgrimage back to my ancestral land. I'm from Peru. I was born there.
Yeah.
And I had this incredible remembrance and received these very ancient mother codes, for lack of another description. And that just catapulted us into another realm of what this whole union experience is about. Watching him become skin and bones, and still looking at him and saying, "This is the man that I am most attracted to in the whole world." Really, really brought a lot of things to light.
Wow. Well, let's just stay there for a moment. So just logistically, 4 children,
Yes.
he's not eating for 41 days and
Yes.
you're taken off to Peru.
Out of the country.
Like who took care of the children? Just let me get that out
Exactly.
of the back of my head.
Oh my God. It was such a leap of faith, Allana. He was 20 days, maybe, no, at least 2.5 weeks into the fast when I felt the invitation, just as he had, to do the fast. I felt the invitation. Let's go. You need to come. You need to come. You need to come now. Yes, in the middle of all of this. And the kids are in school and they need to be taken to school. So the logistics at that point, honestly, were not even the primary concern. Usually they would be. That's why this was such a massive leap of faith. And he saw that and he honored that so deeply, because I was letting go of control. And I got to trust him and trust that if he needed help, he would call upon it. And we have neighbors that can help. We had my best friend here was checking in on, do the kids need help getting to places?
Yeah.
And everything worked itself out. Everything did. And that was massive for me to release the control of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's stay there and then we'll go back to the other one. I always believe that whether our bodies pipe up with his disability or your autoimmune, or our listening pipes up and we go fast, Peru, whatever it is, if we're willing to slow down, feel, listen, we're being held. We're being, we're dying to be reborn, right? Like something is being released, as you said earlier, surrender, letting go, so that something can emerge and ascend and awaken. I'm very curious about what the 41-day fast was, because I just also interviewed Sophia Sundari and Oliver. He, I believe, did a 40-day fast as well. So this is like 2 for 2 with the gentleman. Like, what's up on the planet with the men doing these fasts? What did he discover? And I think it was the same kind of idea.
Yeah. There were a lot of discoveries. Okay, I wish that he was here to talk about this part, but I can tell you what he has said.
Yes.
And it's a lot of his relationship with the divine is so beautiful and so deep, and it's comes before anything else, like mine does as well. And then there's us. And our relationship is a reflection of that.
Yes.
And when he was going through that fast, what he describes is that he felt so much further away from the divine presence than he did before the fast. So there's this expectation that without the distractions of eating and preparing food and all this, you can tap in deeper into spirit. But he felt like spirit kind of left him. Not, it can't, but he didn't feel that presence, that connection. And so he felt pretty abandoned. And even so, he stayed the course because he knew in his heart that was the step for him. So it was a big step of letting go, of surrender, and of trusting the process. When he started eating, it was actually harder than the fast. The first couple weeks of eating were more challenging because he expected so much to return. And it took longer to return.
Wow. And so that's so curious to me. When whenever I have like I'm seeking with my mind understanding or clarity, I'm really getting, the more I ascend, that's so That's so last year. That's so 3D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That's your ego wanting to understand it, but your heart will
Totally.
recognize the truth and the soul in it.
Exactly. And the more I drop into my hips and into my alignment, into my 5D, we'll call it, this abandonment, maybe I'm actually letting go of my ego, not letting go of the divine. So what did what did he discover by the end of this in terms of his ascension, his relationship with the divine, even though that's the beginning of it or the middle of it that he felt separate? Where was he by the end?
Yeah. He was at peace.
Mm.
And that was, I think, really the key. And what I witnessed from the outside perspective too, is that he had such a peace about him, even without that vibrant, alive feeling of spirit inside of him, but there was such a peace. And when I came back from Peru, he was in the final 7 days, final week of his fast.
Yeah.
He didn't even have energy to go up the stairs to sleep in bed anymore. He had to sleep on the couch. And he just very quickly decelerated in that last week. And it took so much faith. And also for me to not go back into the trauma of having to caretake him 8 years ago.
Right.
When he went through that. So there was such a healing of those two timelines, like of that previous when he was disabled and I felt hopeless, helpless, stuck in my body, trapped in life. Like I have to take care of him. He can't take care of our kids. All of that was redeemed in this time. That was an unexpected miracle that came from that. And he felt so much love from me that had nothing required of him.
Wow.
Because he had nothing to give me, nothing to offer me.
Tell me about either of you, and then I want to switch over to what you learned in Peru. One of the things since we were together about a year ago was really understanding that how my old program was responsible for people rather than being responsible to people. That I had created an entire business being responsible for them, relationships responsible for them. My worth was because I could take care of them, support them, be there for them. And when I began to let that go and see it was insidious, personally, professionally, everywhere. And as I began to stand up and be self first, not selfish or selfless, but right in the middle, self first, I had to let go of a lot of system structures, people, clients, colleagues, mentors, businesses. Like it all came crashing down. Everything that was created on the lie died. And then the ones that were left actually did want to stand upright with me, whole, responsible to each other, but not for each other. And I don't know if you know, but since then I've also met 3 months ago, the love of my life at 50.
What? No, I didn't know this.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And I really believe it's all connected. It has to be.
Yes. Oh, of course. Of course it is.
Yeah. So in terms of not being responsible for him, but to him, that pattern seemed to end from the first time with the disability to now.
Yes.
What did you discover in Peru that supported that? What was the outcome of Peru? The experience
it was such a mystical, mysterious whole thing. The way that the whole thing even happened. It was a Wednesday where it was that decision of, okay, I'm going. I did not have my passport renewed. It had been expired for 11 years, maybe 10, almost 11. Expired. Okay. Not that I got it 10 years ago. It expired 10 years ago. Last time I used it was on our honeymoon in 2006. So,
wow.
Yeah. So there was that logistical piece. Hard to get a passport in an urgent, fast, expedited way these days. And I had to book all my things and all the logistics of flying here and this and these archaeological sites. And I've never traveled by myself anywhere.
Wow. That's a big deal then. Wow.
My whole life. Not only that, but Peru had just gone under this massive civil unrest politically. And it was considered not a safe place to go, but I trusted in something bigger. I said, it's time to go. So I had to book all these things just to prove my trip to get the passport. And I literally walked out of the passport agency emergency appointment the night before I left on my flight.
Wow.
Everything went without a hitch. Everything went perfectly. There could have been so many logistical things that would have gone badly, but they didn't. Everything was exactly just so in flow. So I knew that this whole thing was so divinely appointed.
Totally.
And I can't describe what it was. It was a very ancient activation
Mm.
I felt, and especially several days in, I went to Machu Picchu, and that was there's such a very sacred energy there that feels eternal, that feels so wise and ancient. And I had this moment with a rock. You can't logically
Make this shit up.
explain this. You can't make this shit up. I had a moment with the rock. I gave her my tears. She gave me her due. I don't know. There was an exchange. There was a like a switch of something, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I'm getting glimpses of it now, as in the work that I've been doing since then. There has been very much of an ancient divine mother presence that people have recognized in me, that their own mothers are saying, you've been mothered in a way that I have never been able to mother you. And they're like, and it was you in that ceremony or in that experience. I can't take credit for that. I just said yes, and I received it. And Ryan felt that, this unconditional love when I came back. And that was just it's like we started on a new timeline. And the way that he tells his story too is so beautiful, because he'll tell people about, and I can't believe she did that thing. She went to Peru in the middle of my fast. He's more amazed about that than him doing the 41-day water fast. I'm like, how did your body do this? But it was that unconditional love. I would come home. When I came home, I just loved him with no expectation. And it really just embedded and anchored in this experience of, oh, I'm honored to get to love you.
Yeah.
And to be devoted in this love to each other.
Yeah.
And I trust that whenever you get your energy back, or however long it takes, I trust that timing more than my preference.
Stunning.
I had to go through a massive egoic death during that time, especially sexually, because we were celibate for about 2.5 months during that time. And I'm like, what about my needs? And so there's all of that too. And soul really, really piping up in that time for me.
Wow. And that the sexual energy isn't just the genital copulation. It's so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was the thing I missed the most, was the erotic aliveness. And I told him, what I miss more than the sex itself is this energy, this alive juiciness between us. Because there wasn't that either for the fast, of course. And then in the recovery period, he's like, I want to be that.
Right.
And I'm not. And so there's a deep acceptance and reverence of what is. Acknowledging I miss this, but I'm here with it.
Yeah. You've been married this whole time. I've been single most of this time. My practice has been this erotic lovemaking with life, making love with history, that I don't need to wait for a partner, nor do I need to just whip out my vibrator. Like, what would it be to make love with nature? That's one of my favorites. So when you're speaking of this exchange with the rock on the mountain, that really moves me. I'm curious if you'd be willing to share, to me, if there's an unconditional love that you be through you for him and for others, it must have healed some sort of wound or trauma or something inside of you, so you could unconditionally love you. So can you share with us what those tears were into the rock that you released?
Oh my goodness. It was, I think the best way I could describe it was, the interaction kind of happened like this. I was going through with this guide who was it's so spiritually connected. I could tell. And all of my guides, I didn't pick them. The universe picked them for me. I'm like, this is the perfect dude to be guiding me through. He grew up there at the foot of in the town that's that goes up to Machu Picchu, Aguascalientes. He's from there, born and raised there. Long hair, very just like connected to the earth, walking around saying Anyay Pachamama. It means like deep gratitude to the earth.
Yes.
And picking up any trash that people left behind. He would tell us about the consciousness of this and the life in that, and the godness in that. And there was such a reverence from the get-go in this whole experience. And he told me about these grandparent rocks, basically, that were there, that they built the structures around. These rocks were already there. The other rocks came from the water, actually. We don't know how they got them up this mountain. It's a mystery of its own, one of the seven wonders of the world, right? But these grandparent rocks, he said, come here and let me just put your hands here.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my favorite things. This guy comes here probably 300 times a year. He grew up here. He's very connected. And I put my hands on this rock and I could feel the electricity, like the energy vibrating off of it.
Mm.
I could just feel it. Like, wow, how doesn't everybody know about this? Because this should be a place where everybody stops if they knew about it. It just looks like a rock.
Right.
Just a regular rock. So that just got me very, wow, this is amazing. It's magical. We keep walking. We're like kind of nearing sort of the end. There's this place where there's this like temple of, or this citadel or whatever, where they would keep the virgins, the beautiful virgins that were set aside for the sun god. And there was this grandparent rock, grandmother rock. That's how I felt. And it just called to me. And there was this tiny little sprout growing off of it with a drop of dew. And I just put my hands on the rock and I felt that same energy. And I put the little drop of dew, it transferred perfect little circle onto my hand. And I went like this.
Nice.
And I just put it on my forehead, on my third eye. And then I just pressed my forehead against her. And I just started to cry. And I cannot understand what happened in this moment. It's like she just like imprinted me with this remembrance of who I am.
Nice.
And when you remember who you are, and again, it's not a logical mental thing, there's something profound that happens where it's like, oh, my little stories about what my little ego needs are and what my rigid boundaries and what my entitlements tell me I need to have, it just all goes out the window. It's not that it leaves forever, but no, we're still human. But there was this like, just this awakening. So when I came back home, there was that deep love. It's not even a deep love for myself. It's like just a recognition of the love that I am.
I am love. Yes.
And I just can't help but to share that, to not share that, to not embody that and express that in whatever way serves that moment best, right? It's not always gooey and wishing whatever. But if I don't do that, then I'm not being me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel good.
Right.
I'm withholding myself. So it was a very yeah, and of course in other seasons when things need to kind of, that wild feminine is just wanting to rip through all of the old stories and the old timelines and create something new, and it feels very fiery and crazy. That's also in service of love. It can be, and there are those moments as well. Both of us trusting that, okay, this is surrendering. Surrendering to what serves love the best.
So beautiful.
It's hard to put these things into words.
No, you're doing great. You're just doing.
I think you get it.
I do. And for the viewers or the listeners, your business is so beautifully around eroticism and sacred sexuality, etc. And to hear, and sometimes you don't have sex for 2.5 months. Yeah. And sometimes you take off to Peru and he does a fast. And sometimes you got 4 children picked up by the neighbors. Like to keep it real, to keep it real. Yeah. What is also a real practice that does keep the intimacy, and by intimacy, I don't mean genital copulation. I mean like that vulnerable, heart open, transparent connection, whether it's scary as shit or erotic as whatever. What is one of your favorite practices that has sustained this marriage for it's been several decades that you've known each other and been together, right? Yeah.
A big one that comes to mind, and this can look different in form depending on the season, right? But at the core of it is sharing our fears and our desires. So what is it that I want? What's coming alive in me? And what are some fears? Like, oh my God, I realized that there's this little old lingering fear, and not to attach to the stories of it.
Right.
Either way, the desire or the fear, because I can share a desire and then there's this expectation unspoken that I need him to fulfill it.
Right.
And then we can't just be with the revealing of the desire. Now we have to be who's responsible for what, and
right.
And we get into that. So if that really became a big practice of ours, I want to say it, when Ryan was coming out of that period of depression and disability, that's when we really started to tap into our emotions and be real and raw. And it was very messy. We didn't really understand how to do this without blaming each other and projecting and all that. But yeah, sharing fears and desires. So now sometimes we'll be walking and having a cigar and sharing what's coming alive in you. It's not specifically very rigid.
That's just so gorgeous.
Like it became a thing for us the last couple of years. So people, like, somebody came over and brought a box of cigars, and they said, "I didn't even know you enjoyed cigars." Like, yeah, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
You.
I was present there for a second. I'm just visualizing the two of you walking down the streets in LA with a cigar. Okay, keep going. Okay, so you're going for a walk.
Oh yeah, so we'll go for walks. We do usually go for a walk every day still, whether we have a cigar or not. Or we'll sit in the back around a fire. So we have these very sacred moments that are us, and our kids might come and go, but they know that this is a special connection time. They're welcome to sit with us. But it's not a time where we're going to like be playing with them, for example.
Right.
So there are these moments that we'll have, and just even underlying that, it's just this openness of the heart that I'm not going to withhold my heart from you.
Yeah.
That's the deeper commitment. Even if it's scary, it was so scary for Ryan to tell me, "Hey, I'm doing this fast." The thing he was the most scared of was my reaction, because what if I reject it? What if I reject him? That's a long time to feel like somebody's not on your side while you're hungry and weak.
Yeah.
And so he had to have a lot of faith for that.
How have you navigated the fear of each other not agreeing? Maybe rejection is how it feels, but it sounds like you're not actually leaving or aborting or abandoning. You're there. You're just not in agreement, which could feel like rejection. How have you navigated that? So first off, you're sharing fears and desires without fixing, without taking responsibility or obligation. You're just letting it be in the space. So that's beautiful. And then when you share, and one person says something completely batshit crazy, and the other one is like, "Oh, that's curious. Okay. You're not going to take responsibility for it. And you're somehow not aligned or not in agreement. Like, how do you allow that to still be in the space together? How do you navigate that? What's an example?
There's a lot to be said about sitting in the discomfort together.
Yeah.
And just being in that presence together. And there's another step too, because if you really believe in that, there is that life is working out for you.
Yes.
That the way that the universe conspires to bring things together is no coincidence and no accident, and it's not malicious.
Yeah.
And if you really trust that, then there is also this next step of offering that up. It's like, okay, I want this and you want this. And we're not going to change this person or this person in order to appease that one or that one.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is, I just want you to see my heart, and I will see yours. And even if it makes me uncomfortable, or it makes me insecure, or it makes me scared, or it makes me feel abandoned, it's just me being able to present that and then offering that up. Offering that up. That's the surrender. That's the mysterious part that you can't really teach anyone. It's completely in the heart.
Yeah.
And that's where the miracles happen. That's where something clicks, something, you really see each other, then you're on the same page, even if you still have a different opinion.
Yeah.
Or a different preference.
Right. So if we take that right into, you're in the bathtub together, or you're in bed making love together, and there's a physical move that occurs, or a verbal request that occurs, or something, and it's not meshing. What does that actually look like so that you can stay connected? Or do you take a break? Like, what does that look like to offer it up literally in a moment of rapture?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that the thing that, the best example that I can think of is, okay, this is going to sound funny, but it's the boner. Okay. It's the boner. So what I mean by that is,
you're so adorable.
How do I communicate this? How do I make this make sense? I have the vision in my mind. Let me just take it out and put it into words. So let's say that we are having just a hot moment in bed.
Yeah.
And he, he's just, I don't know, whatever that is. We're in the kinky stuff too. So maybe he's like pulling my hair and choking me a little bit and just, doing the thing. And then something happens where maybe he does something a little too hard.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And we have our code words and our safe words and whatever. But early on in using those, it was still taken as kind of like a hit. It's a hit to the ego
Yeah.
of, oh, I didn't do it right. There's
Yeah.
that little
Yeah.
boy that kicks in that's like, oops, I upset mommy. Not to
Right.
make that weird and put it in a sexual context, but you know what I mean? Just
No, I get it.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Mhm,
sorry.
mhm. A
And then they
contraction.
shrink back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with
Separation.
that contraction, because they feel that there's this feeling of shame or guilt,
Yeah.
or like, oh, I fucked up. They're the shrinking back of the energy can also correlate to the shrinking back of the dick.
Sure.
So what
Sure.
would happen is the boner would go away.
Yeah.
And then I'm just there like, oh, well, is this where it ends? Is it? I guess we're done. And sometimes I would get so angry because I would then feel rejected.
Sure.
Now
Sure.
his penis is rejecting me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
So
you take
so
that
then it's,
personally.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
that would create this whole tension. So we actually, that's a very tangible example that we have
Yeah.
worked through a
Yeah.
lot early on in those times. And I would
How?
when we started to learn, this was the shift here. So for me to just say like, oh, okay, this is okay. For me to genuinely accept like you don't have a boner right now and that's okay. And I still want to be with you. And
Yeah.
nobody fucked up anything. And
Yeah.
how can we just maintain the connection? Okay, let's
Yeah.
just cuddle. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just do this. Or maybe he goes back down on me or something, and then he gets excited again. But it's
Right.
taking the pressure off of needing to fix
Mm.
anything.
Mm.
Taking the pressure off of whatever, removing my personal agenda and
Mhm.
just being so present with what's there right now that we're not superimposing what we wish that it was instead.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
happened when we started to really, really, do that was that when we would start having sex again, it was so much better than it was going before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was this like, oh, we made it. Oh, yay, kind of feeling.
Wow. So it's staying connected with self, not
Yeah.
rejecting self, like what did I do wrong,
Yes.
shaming and guilting yourself, or projecting that, no shaming or
Mhm.
guilting the other, and just being authentic, real, and connected. And you could ride through that into a reconnection that was even stronger, richer, more vulnerable, deeper, more erotic than before.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is so good. The presupposition of that is what? Like, what have you practiced so that in that moment you don't take it personally? What does he practice in that moment so he doesn't take it personally or blame? Because to me, we can say all of this, but there's always that deeper under presupposition of then how do you actually be that in that moment?
Yeah.
And that trigger doesn't keep happening.
Yeah. I mean, it out in the outside of the play space, right? There is a lot of integration. So let's say that there's this part of me that I know, like there's part of me that I know that like it shrinks into this scared little girl of oh no, I'm not enough, or I'm too much. Oh, I need too much. I'm too needy. So this is just one modality, right? This is something that has helped me a lot. But to do that kind of parts work where I will connect with that part of my inner child, for example. It could be multitudes of things, but that aspect of her that just feels like she's just too high maintenance, or she's too much, or no, like, nobody can ever handle this. And I just sit with her and I listen to her and I let her tell me what she needs. How can I help her to feel safe? And for me to not fix her, because that's me trying to fix an aspect of myself that doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to be heard and loved.
Okay, we need to
And
say that one more
so
time.
literally
Keep going, Lucy, because that's so key. That when we go find these parts from the point of view that they're wrong and need to be fixed, it actually makes it worse. And so with parts with no need, just to listen, just to be. Okay, so keep going, because that's so key in the work I do as well. So thank you.
Yes. I mean, that's really the bulk of it right there. But if we are in the practice of doing that, anytime that something is triggered and it comes up and I think, okay, what part of me is not feeling seen right now? And to be present with that and not try to here's another thing, not try to connect with it and be present with it so that it will shut up.
Yeah. That's still an agenda. Yeah.
That's still, but you, again, surrender. When you're so completely surrendered to what's present in this moment.
Yeah.
And you just say, I would love this. I'm not disowning my desire. I'm not, repressing that. I would love to feel free in this part of myself. But then to just offer that up and say, I trust that, you, universe, source, higher intelligence wants me to have what I really want. And so I'm surrendering that, and I'm going to be present with what's here right now. And I will let that be enough.
Yeah.
And then that resistance softens, and it just, you feel like, oh, I feel a little bit lighter. So when those moments come up in bed, there's less of an edge to it. And it's almost like, here's what started to happen to me, and actually to both of us, we could notice that part of ourselves, like that, I'll call it like our smaller selves, and from our higher self perspective, and just see that part of ourselves trying to get mad. But it's like, we can't let ourselves fully get there, because it seems like, oh, this is just a role that I've been playing. And I'm not so enmeshed in it that I need to embody that role anymore. I can notice it. And maybe speak it out and bring it to the light and say, oh, Frida's showing up again, but Frida. Just that's actually not one of my parts names, but that maybe I should make it.
Found a new one today. Frida.
That's my friend's dog's name.
Oh, that's funny.
And just witnessing it, observing it, and not getting so identified in the story of what this means. I didn't think that's soft.
I friggin' love this. It's so good. One question I've always had, even the first time we met, but I never asked you. I was a single mom since my son was 1. And so he'd go to his dad's for the week. And that's when I would have any sexual time with myself or my boyfriend. And when he was around, I was kind of single focused, probably that same wound of overgiving half the time, right? And under the other half, but I would just focus on him. How the hell do you have sex with 4 children? And do you tell them, which I did tell my son, sex is beautiful and natural, and we want to have consent, and it's all
yes.
Like I would communicate all of this to him. But he never, to my awareness, has ever heard me have sex. So how do you deal with that as a mom of 4?
Oh my goodness, there's so much to unpack here. I mean, first of all, start early on, actually calling the body parts what they're called.
Yes.
And not giving them pet names and weird little pee-pee. I mean, not that it's weird or bad, but just that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't know the word vagina until I was well into my teenage years.
Yeah.
So, there's that. And then also teaching them early on consent. You don't have to give grandma a hug if you don't want to.
Right.
What do you want to do?
Right.
I know that this would show her love, but just teaching them consent, communication, boundaries with their body. They can choose what to do with it.
Right.
And actually our 2 high school daughters are in relationships now that are, these are the most conscious teenage relationships I've ever seen.
Oh, honey, good job.
They have seen us go through all this shit, and they were determined, I will not be that. But but then when we started to get into the really beautiful, juicy stuff, our oldest daughter, she even told us one time, she said, I don't want to just date like my friends like to date, because I'm not scared of being alone and not in a relationship. I want what you and daddy have.
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
Oh, that was so special, especially after everything that she's witnessed us go through.
Sure.
So, but with them, I mean, with our older kids, it's relatively easy. Like they understand how this works. We've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
Our younger kids, they're in 2nd and 3rd grade. And so they understand, like, it's what is age appropriate for them to understand. They know that mommy and daddy will go upstairs and be naked together, and you can't go inside, and don't knock on the door. It's locked, but don't bang on the door, and any sounds that come from there, it's just us loving each other. And so so they do hear everything. They hear everything, and we don't make it weird. What makes it weird is when we make it weird.
Thank you. Totally. Wow. And
then that's what scars them later.
Yeah. And you've got 2 built-in babysitters by the sounds of it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So that helps.
Okay. We do. Yeah. Make sure, feed them pizza. We're good.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. I love this. I love the way that you show up online, how beautiful the erotic photos are. How have you ever dealt with jealousy from other women or competition from other women? How do you bring in sisterhood? I don't know exactly all the different programs you offer in person or online, but how, when a woman is shining in her erotic glory, you probably trigger others without trying. And how do you handle that? And how do you encourage sisterhood, sacred sisterhood?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So I think of it as for some years, I thought of it, I'm triggering people. Even before I really explored sharing more of the erotic side,
Yeah.
just talking about things like shadow work and inner healing and all that and trigger
Yeah.
people. But what I started to see, especially as all of more of the Eros started to come through, was it's activating people. It's activating in people something
Yeah.
that they had forgotten about themselves, or that they had lost hope in, or
Nice.
that they didn't think was for them.
Mm.
And so this is the feedback that I receive across the board,
Mm.
way more than here's where jealousy comes into the picture, Lana. When a woman says, I feel jealous, like it'll be a video, a post with me and Ryan or something. Like I feel jealous, and I recognize that that's my work to do.
Yes. Perfect.
There is such an awareness.
Right.
It's so beautiful because they're not blaming me for the jealousy. They're
Right.
recognizing it as an opportunity
Yes.
to reclaim some part of themselves that has been kind of
Yeah.
cast aside.
Right. I can have that. Good. I
Yeah.
celebrate you, and I can have that too.
Yeah. So that's the energy that I receive back. I think it has a lot to do too, that this is, I don't know, we attract the people that are ready to actually connect with what's there,
Yeah.
or whatever that resonance is, you know.
Mm.
And yes, there is a more of a sense of sisterhood as well. I have had a lot of courses for women, and then that's brought the women together, and there's more understanding of, you know, the heart behind it.
Yeah.
And yeah, come to think of it. Yeah. So that's been beautiful.
Good for you, sweetheart. And I love that when we are only our genitals and our heart is not a part of it, it's so compartmentalized that along with that would just be an ego that would have jealousy or competition or a sense of lack. But when the heart is brought in, I remember working with this one client, a gentleman actually, on a VIP weekend, and the heart wasn't there. And the seduction was there, and the manipulation from the mind was there to be safe or not to be smothered. He had his like strategy in both directions. And when the heart was invited to come back on, it's like it was kind of cranky. It was like, I will not come back unless you let me lead. I am not going to. And the heart was so sad from having witnessed the suffering he'd gone through from the strategies and seduction and being used or using. And the heart is so brilliantly powerful to align our sacred sexuality and our divine. I love this. What is one practice? And I know I should let you go soon, but I'm really glad you've been on the podcast.
How did it go so fast?
I know. Can we go for 3 more days? But I want people, before we complete here, please, LuciLampe.com. That'll be in the show notes, as well as the wildawakening.teachable.com, also in the show notes. Follow her on Instagram if you haven't yet. Give us any of your feedback that you want us to talk about on another IG Live in the future. But I would love if we could complete with a beautiful heart practice that we can bring our heart into our eroticism, into our sacred sexuality. So we don't have to have like sex over here and spirituality over here. Like they blend so exquisitely. What is a practice you love or really works for your clients?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's so good. Let me pick one.
I know.
I also want to say that this is equally important. Like you were talking about making love with life and having that eroticism with life. That's what real erotic energy is this connectedness, aliveness with everything, with your tears, even with your rage, with your grief.
Yes.
And you need that even when you're having incredible sex with a partner or feeling so ravished and so held and so claimed and all of that. You still have that. It doesn't replace that. I have that with Ryan because I have this with the source.
Yes.
A lot of women will look for that to fill it, and that just will never, ever, ever be enough.
Yes,
they just can't. They can never give enough. So this is again, I come back to the source thing. You're not even, it's not like you're filling your own cup, because then it feels like, where's it coming from? If I'm feeling empty, where's my cup? Everything's still empty. You're connecting, you're tapping into the infinite source. That's what's sourcing you. That's what's nourishing you. And one of the things that I like to do is even just simply describe it is, now you might even do this during a self-pleasure practice. Or if you do come to the point of orgasm, you might actually use the orgasm as a portal to go deeper into the space, which I also really love. but you're basically allowing that point of surrender, whether it's an orgasm or just a heart willingness, to open and envision this like white, glowy, soft light just flooding your body. And when I do this, also, I like to have it, root down into the earth. And there's this deep, like ancient connection with the earth, with the mother, that mother energy through the earth, and then this crown to the father. And so it feels like there's this beautiful union happening, and I'm embodying that. But you just kind of feel that wash over you and fill you. So sometimes if I feel like, for me, where I feel it in my body when I'm feeling kind of like antsy or unmet or like longing, it's like this pit in my stomach. So I will envision that pit just being filled and just overflowing.
Nice.
So so it really, there are some different layers in that. You can tap into where in your body are you feeling the vacuum, or the contraction, the vortex, the void. But that's one. I do love working with the light.
And I think it really encapsulates what we've talked about today. If we can allow this infinite, we don't have to get it, keep it, take it. It's not from a guy. It's not from source that's like limited. It's unlimited. And it's in, as and through us, always has been, always will be. And how can we be with, without fixing, so beautifully said, any of these contractions we find? And in the allowance, like you just said, give it over. That's how it works for me. Be with it and just give it over. And through grace, it and then more light can come through. And that's at work, that's with friends, that's lovemaking, that's self-pleasuring, that's going paddleboarding this morning. It's like wherever it is, and it brings me to these tears of just gratitude. For being in a body, alive. And yes, it doesn't take away the challenges, but somehow I'm resourced to rejuvenated, to handle things with more presence, more alignment, more grace, more receptivity, more humility. So I love this. I love this. So what are you looking forward to? And then I shall bid you adieu, besides picking up the kids from school. No, Ryan's got them today. So that's awesome.
He's got wave 1 of kids. Wave 2 is coming a bit. But I mean, I'm looking forward to, actually right now, for the first time in some years, there's no next big launch coming. And I am enjoying the voidness of that, and just having the spaciousness, and wait, and just patiently opening and waiting and just letting it come in, the whatever the next thing is. There's no force necessary. And I'm leaning into that. So, we'll watch something come up tomorrow and I'm like, this is the thing. But I don't know. I never ever determine the timing of these things. When they come, and I say yes, or I don't say yes, but I like to say yes, because if it's aligned, I don't want to say no.
Correct. We want to be receptive to that alignment. I love where we've been since we met last time a year ago. We seem to both have allowed, not that we're ever going to get there, but the ego will to fall and divine will to have its way with us. And I do have a program in the new year that I will be launching. And yet it's the culmination of 20 years of work, of creating 10 processes. And it feels more like an I get to, rather than I have to, more like a playfulness. But moving into the holidays, when we're recording this, I don't have the normal go-to and the last big this, and I'm taking my time to move in with my boyfriend and take it to create what really matters, the foundations. We're both in our 50s. This is not our first rodeo, and it really is important to savor the unknown together and let it arise together. So I'm glad we're both kind of in that similar, surrendered, receptive, grateful energy. And I'm so grateful for the way you show up, the way you share so vulnerably, the way you have such beautiful sister energy, divine mother energy, erotic energy, the way you share about in the moment how to deal with these places where we want to contract, we want to run, we want to blame self or other. I'm very grateful that we've found each other now for a couple years. And and I ask all of you to when this is over, to just take a moment, go outside, be in nature. Maybe if you're more of a writer, a journaler, or just close your eyes and be with what touched you, what moved you. Allow something that was sparked, activated, ignited from this conversation to unfold you to the next place and to surrender and open to this next place. Because that's why Luci and I show up in the world, to love you and to give of our vulnerability and our mastery and our humility, all the things, so that we're all in this together. So thank you so much, Luci, for this time. And
Thank you. That's so beautiful to be with you again.
Likewise. And all of you, thank you for being with Intimate Conversations and for letting me love the shit out of you. It is such an honor. All my love. Until next time.
See you next week on Intimate Conversations. Get out there and make love to life.
Feeling the feels always works. And it's always hard. This morning, 8 a.m. totally socked in with fog. 9 a.m. totally socked in with fog. 10 a.m. totally socked in with fog. I want to go paddleboarding though. And when it was really socked in, like I couldn't even see my hand in front of my face. But by 10 a.m. I'm like, okay. For a certain period of time, I just waited and I listened. And I still got go paddleboarding. All right. So by 10, I got on my paddleboard and I could barely see around the corner. And I just kept going, and the fog was so cold against my skin. And it was like this way, you know, when you need to figure it all out, you need to understand, you need to have clarity because you're so freaking scared, right? And then you just let that go. And you drop down into your body. And the very first thing you feel is fear. So then you have to integrate the fear, or whatever it is you're feeling. Maybe you're mad, maybe you're sad, whatever it is you feel. And then you drop down farther into your belly and you just know. So after I did all the things, I just knew, go paddleboarding. So fine, I got out there, still can't see shit. But I do see this big, humongous heron, and he's like, flies a little bit beside me, flies a little bit beside me, Then the dude takes off right into the fog, like into the nothingness, into the void, into the light. Elegantly, exquisitely, gloriously, with a little bit of the drunk dinosaur kind of thing they do, but overall, elegantly. And I burst into tears. And it was like it was telling me, you don't have to have it all figured out, Allana. You just need to slow down enough to feel, trust, know, and act. So ever since my paddleboard this morning, I've just been like, okay, I feel so on fire. There's an energy that comes from knowing, and just going for it. And isn't that just such like a reminder of what Luci was sharing with us about how her husband, Ryan, just knew, time for a fast. We're going to do this for 41 days. And then she was like, going to go to Peru. And they've cultivated enough of a spiritual practice with the divine, with themselves, with each other, that in a relationship with 4 kids and a business and all the things, they can still listen and act. What an inspiration. Please follow her if you haven't already. She has programs on a regular basis that she does. One day, whenever I get my ass back to LA, I think she lives in Orange County. Can't remember. But anyways, the girl is a dancer. We're going to have to do like a little something for you. I want to do a video with her, and I want to go to India and do a Bollywood video with Rithik. I have like my little dance party people around this planet that I want to do like things with whenever I have the blessing of meeting them. But definitely follow Luci. And this ability to drop in, out of the head, let go of control, integrate traumas, wounds, triggers, fears, all the things, forgive the past, drop down into your hips, into this place of knowing. This is what I'm masterful at supporting you with, holding space, absolutely supporting the integration of all these wounds. I am not better than you. I'm just a few steps ahead on this journey that is the most exquisite journey of homecoming to our glory, to our connection with the divine, to a sense of, I wouldn't say I'm like fearless 24/7, but I'm sure as shit a lot more fearless and a lot more grateful and a lot more home. I'd say a lot more home in my skin and body. And this is what I choose for you. So I encourage you to book an intimacy breakthrough experience call with me. Let's connect. Let's talk about what's next for you, what really matters, why it's important to let go of those old programs,
to let go of those old ways of being that just keep you in patterns of suffering. I get it. There's another way. All right. I love you with all my heart. Thanks for being with us on Intimate Conversations.